Jenny? Jenny, you're muted.
Started the recording for you.
All right, thank you. This is the Bolton Board of Selectmen meeting for November 24, 2020, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This public meeting of the Town of Bolton Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom video communications. So good evening, everybody. We have several items on our agenda tonight, all related to the Neshoba Regional School District. Our first is a discussion about the role of the Board of Selectmen with regard to the relationship with the school district. And the way we'll conduct this is each selectman will have about 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to put forth what they think is the proper relationship. Again, there'll be no interruptions for each of those first 5 minutes. After all three of us have had an opportunity to speak, we will enter in a discussion. It is not a goal of this to come out with a single point of view, but just allow all of us to explain our positions so that the other people can understand what the other selectmen can understand what they are in terms of moving forward and having and addressing the other items on our agenda tonight. If we do come to a consensus, that would be great, but that's not the goal. So I'll ask Stan if he'd like to go first.
Sure, be happy to. Thanks, Bob, for getting this organized. And I think we've had some interesting discussions with both the school committee and the district over the course of the last month or more. I think it boils down to issues of either communication or understanding, or in my view, both the school committee and the district not necessarily listening to the parents who are ultimately the real customers. I mean, we're all the customers of the district. I mean, we're paying over 63, at least in Bolton, 63% of the entire operation of the schools. And I think and I certainly have had lots of communication with many parents over the course of the last few months, in particular, initially with regards to the lack of a hybrid solution at the high school. And I think the conversations I've had with parents, not necessarily, it's hybrid or nothing. And I think we've always had the discussion of, if people want remote, that's fine. But there are parents who are voicing an interest in hybrid, and they haven't gotten an answer from the district or the school committee in regards to that. I'll relate a little bit later, even discussion. I don't know if you gentlemen watched the November 18th school committee meeting, but there was a lot of discussion around that. Parents are frustrated. They just want an understanding of what the criteria are for, well, and it's almost a moot point now. I mean, we're moving into, it's almost December now. Infections are rising, et cetera, et cetera. So the opportunity to have a hybrid solution should have been really exploited at the beginning of the school, at the beginning of the school year. That may not necessarily be an option now, but parents are still looking for what the criteria are. And that even came up in the November 18th meeting. Furthermore, I've been also hearing from parents in regards to special education, the issues surrounding special education, apparently the significant amount of litigation that's been going on between the district and parents to try to get resolutions to the needs of their children in the district, of which they have a right to. So I think it's really starting to boil down to, you have a district and a school committee that's not necessarily listening to the parents. And at the heart of the matter are the children. And that's the key to all of this. There are lots of other secondary issues that circulate around this in terms of the reputation of the school district and valuations of the town and all that other stuff, which we can get into. But paramount around this is the children. And there seems to be a growing body of parents who just want to get some answers. And the district and school committee have not necessarily been forthcoming with that. And as you know, we are in a 3-town district. We have a school committee that's the liaisons between the district and the 3 towns. And the Board of Selectmen, don't really have a role to play. But I feel that the school committee has not lived up to its mission in terms of what it needs to do in terms of directing the district and being responsive to parents. And I think we need to take a larger role, whether that's, well, by statute, probably not, but there are other alternatives and mechanisms that we possibly have in order to affect some change or to get some dialogue going. One of the other things I constantly hear is that we have school committee meetings, but the parents aren't allowed to speak. They've effectively closed school committee meetings to any discussion amongst the most concerned and involved constituents, which are the parents and their children.
All right, Stan, you got 30 seconds.
Thanks. Okay, so I think we need to take a broader perspective. We need to pursue additional avenues to try to help and influence the school committee and the district to be more responsive to parents. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Jonathan, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Sorry, that's my timer. I'm
It's a
using the
lovely
timer, so
timer.
it's fair.
It's a lovely timer.
Go ahead.
I think that we're hearing comments from parents about the school system, about remote and hybrid learning means, it's a symptom of a problem. And I think that problem is related to, lack of communication, a lack of good information about process, how decisions are being made, transparency. So I think we do have a role to play. Some have suggested that school committee members are elected every 3 years, and we should just wait until their terms come up and elect somebody else. I think this issue and other issues that have come up are too important to wait that long. I did a little bit of research. Sorry. I did a little bit of research about other high schools, rated, as highly as ours, less or more on the list. And, there's a strong majority of schools that have opted to do the hybrid model. They did surveys, and a majority of parents and teachers, opted for full school or hybrid. So if you join those two, you had a majority. All of those schools cited those statistics in their decision making. And I'm just not sure how our school board used those statistics to come up with their decision. We had a little bit of discussion about the statistics at the last Tri-Town that was interesting. So, I think we have a role to play, and I think the school committee needs to be less defensive and less kind of autocratic, it seems, with the public. In our Board of Selectmen meetings, we allow comments on every topic that comes up. And I think the school committee could do a better job at allowing people to speak, speak freely, give them a little bit more time. I think the time the school committee gives to the public is maybe 15 minutes. So it just doesn't seem very democratic. It doesn't seem as if the administration and the committee really want to hear what people have to say, whether it's, whether it's difficult to hear or not. It's just important to have these opportunities to speak up. They don't have to be hearings, they just have to be comment periods. So I would definitely recommend that the school committee work much harder on allowing, more opinions to be expressed, and kind of, instead of tamping down on contributions to, opinions and contributions to the decision-making process. And I'll cede my extra minutes to either you or Stan.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank
like
you.
a Senate hearing.
Yeah.
All right. I believe the selectmen have a role to play in helping people deal with other municipal or governmental organizations. But I do think that there are limits on the extent to which the selectmen should be delivering prescriptive solutions. An analogy to this situation is when a homeowner loses electrical power. First, they call National Grid to notify them of the outage and to get an estimate of the restoration. That's a sensible thing to do. National Grid's the expert on electricity. They have the manpower, they have the know-how, they have the tools and equipment to manage and repair the electrical grid. But if National Grid fails to respond, or if the restoration estimate is long past and further efforts on the part of the homeowner are unsuccessful in getting more information or in getting the problem taken care of, the homeowner will stop trying to contact National Grid and contact a local official. The selectmen, we'll say the selectmen for this evening's purposes. But why would you call the selectmen, according to the logic of some people? The selectmen don't know much about electricity. They don't have the tools to fix anything. They don't have the equipment to reach a high power line. But what the selectmen do have is they know which buttons to push and which levers to pull with National Grid to get a response. It may not be the National Grid response that the homeowner wants to hear, but the homeowner will get more information than they had before due to the selectmen aiding them in their situation. And so the selectmen have a role in this. Any governmental body is full of bureaucratic rules and gobbledygook language that make no sense to the average person. The school district is no exception. Neither is town government. So when a parent is up against bureaucracy, the school district, they look for allies who understand the governmental stuff. The selectmen are a natural choice. We're local. We deal with many of the same issues as the local school district, and we pretty much run by the same rules as the school district. And the public profile of the selectmen is similar to the school committee members and administrators in the school district. In the First World War, the French Prime Minister regularly visited troops in the front lines of the war. When asked why he did this, he answered, "War is too important to be left to the generals." Similarly, the education of our children is too important to leave strictly to administrators. That's why there are civilian volunteers, the school committee, leading the direction of the school district. The same for town government. The selectmen oversee all town functions. And on a national level, all military units report to a civilian president. While many government functions are delegated to professional administrators, they are never independent of the civilian authority. While the selectmen have a role to play in aiding parents trying to navigate the issues in the school district, they should not be trying to determine the outcomes. The selectmen do not have the depth of knowledge to determine what the outcome of a problem should be, but they definitely can use all their efforts to get the school committee and the administration focused on resolving the problem. So that concludes my comments. Any discussion among the selectmen?
Well, I think we need to exert whatever we can from a legal perspective to make sure that the parents are being heard. And I think, I've talked to probably 50 or 60 parents. I've talked to them in groups, I've talked to them individually, I've gotten emails from parents. Their voices aren't heard, and I think we need to be an advocate of that and a voice to try to get to the other groups, that being the school committee as well as the district. To your point, we have some levers to pull and some buttons to push, and I think we need to take advantage of that as best we can in order to move this forward. Because quite frankly, I've said this in the last couple of meetings, it's the children that are at stake here. That's what we have to, and everyone is kind of saying that, but there are groups that are not necessarily, that I feel are sincere about that. And then we'll get into some discussion and some of the other items tonight. But I think absent of any of the other select boards in any of the towns, I mean, I think we have a noble cause here to try to, not necessarily that we know that what's better than anything else, but I think we need to make sure that all avenues are explored, all avenues are pursued, and the outcome for the kids is the best outcome for the kids. And that's what I have to say right now.
Okay, Jonathan?
It seems like we're pretty close to a consensus, from our different remarks. There's a slight variation there maybe, but so I think that's good to hear and good going forward.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'd agree.
And
with
I don't
you
think
there.
we necessarily have to. I don't think we necessarily have to come to any conclusions tonight on specific course of action. But I think this is sort of the opening act of probably something that's going to be continuing on for some time. But I think it's good that we have consensus among the three of us, and I think we should have more of these sessions to more formalize what it is we're going to do or how we're
Okay.
going to do it.
Okay. I would like to open it up to comments from other people watching. I would ask, however, that people not residents of Bolton, please wait a while and let the residents of Bolton speak first. I would appreciate that. We will put some time out there to let other people from outside the town speak, but I'd like to hear from Bolton residents first. Does anybody have any comments?
Should we remind people that they can use the raise hand feature?
Sure. Would you do that, please?
Yep. So the raise hand feature for people who have not used it in the past can be found if you open your participants tab on the lower part of your screen. Then next to your name, you'll see, I believe it says more. You click on more and there's a raise hand icon there that you can use. You'll immediately go to the top of the list and I'll monitor that list and let the chair know that you have a comment or a question.
Do we have anybody from the town who wishes to speak on this matter? Okay, I think you just said no, Jenny. You're still muted. All right.
Now,
Yeah, I can hear you now.
there are no hands at this time.
Okay, so let's take the general audience. Would anybody like to comment on what's been said so far?
No hands.
Nothing? Okay. In that case, we will go on to our next agenda item, which is to review and discuss the memorandum of agreement between the Neshoba Regional School District Committee and the Neshoba Regional Teachers Union. Don, I wonder if you could give us an overview of this memo and particularly some points you made about this being an impact bargaining agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm not going to get into the details of the memorandum of agreement itself. It's 16 or 16 plus points, which were negotiated between the school committee and the union, and it's not for me to comment on any of that. Obviously, I was not part of the negotiations, and if I were, I wouldn't get into the details of the negotiations. But at a higher level, and this is inside baseball stuff, and I certainly wouldn't expect people that are not heavily involved in municipal government to understand the difference. But the comment that I made to you offline was there's a difference between collective bargaining and impact bargaining. And collective bargaining is when, and I am the district's actually municipal representative to collective bargaining, and I participated in the most recent round of that for both Unit A and Unit C. In collective bargaining, the two parties sit down, they have issues that they want to discuss and negotiate. You go through however many meetings it takes, and hopefully the negotiating sessions are successful. And at the conclusion, if the parties come to closure or come to agreement, then usually a memorandum of agreement is typed up, and then language is added to the collective bargaining agreement, also known as the contract, that reflect the changes that have been negotiated and agreed to. Impact bargaining is a little bit different. Impact bargaining is initiated by management when management is looking to make a change or changes in, for example, working conditions. And I am not going to speak specifically on the MOA. That's not my intent. I'm just speaking about how collective bargaining works in general, and impact bargaining. So impact bargaining, management wishes to make a change or changes to working conditions, for example, whatever that they may be. So the management notices the union of their intent to do something, and usually would declare a certain date by which they would like to implement it. And the union is invited to comment and express any concerns they may have. If there are issues that the union would like to discuss, any union, then a meeting or meetings are scheduled to have that discussion. Presumably there's an exchange of information. Obviously, all parties negotiate in good faith, and there's usually some back and forth. And hopefully at the end of these sessions, the two parties would come to agreement, and whatever they arrive at for a conclusion is implemented. If X number of negotiating sessions are held and sufficient progress isn't made, then in impact bargaining, you would declare an impasse, and management, if the contract allows, would have the right to implement their the last best offer that was on the table. So that's a little different than collective bargaining, in that you can't do that in collective bargaining. You can't act what would appear to be unilaterally. You have to have an agreement from both sides at the table. Whereas in impact bargaining, if you do get to impasse, which hopefully you don't, but if you do, management does have the right to do that. I've been involved in a couple of impact bargaining sessions, not many, but I have done a few. So at a high level, and again, I'm not talking about the MOA that you referenced tonight, but at the 50,000 foot level, that's how impact bargaining works. There's more nuances than that, but at a high level, that's how impact bargaining works, and that's how it differentiates from collective bargaining.
Dan or Jonathan, any comments or questions about what Don said, or comments or questions about the whole MOU?
Well, actually, thanks, Don, for making that distinction. And I think there are two items in the MOU, which I think have some impact on a lot of the discussion that that I've been having with parents, and we're having tonight, and probably will be having as time goes on. The first is item 2, which is, again, this was agreed to and executed on September 3rd. You know, there's been a lot of discussion as to why there isn't a hybrid solution at the high school, and I think parents have been asking for that. Item 2 in this MOU explicitly excludes a hybrid solution at the high school. We've had a lot of discussion on, the building and the windows and the HVAC and everything else, but really item 2 precludes any type of hybrid solution at the high school. And this was back in September of this year. So I think that's a very interesting point, which we can discuss moving forward. I guess the other item is item 16, which is staff assignments. And that actually came up in the November 18th school committee meeting, in that you can't have both a remote as well as well, I'll just read it. At no time will any unit member be assigned to teach simultaneously class both in person and remote learning. So if someone is teaching in class, there cannot be a remote component to that, so that the students who opt for remote education can't be actually engaging in the same type of class. And that actually came up at some amount of discussion in the November 18th school committee meeting, which potentially would have alleviated some of the issues with hybrid and remote. But we can discuss that at a later point in time. But those are the two items that I think are fairly significant in this MOU, which for a lot of parents precluded an opportunity to have any type of hybrid solution at the high school, because it was negotiated between the district and the union, and really I don't think really had any impact or bearing on the facilities itself, as some had said. And that's all I have to say about that at the moment.
So the September 3rd is kind of the end of a process, Don, for the MOU. Like, how long do you think that process was going on before they signed that?
I wouldn't want to speculate, Jonathan. As I said, I wasn't part of the meetings, nor should I have been. I only need to be there for collective bargaining. I don't have a role for impact bargaining, and I don't think it would be fair of me to speculate how many meetings that took.
I guess the dates that are interesting to me is, when did the school district do a survey of the parents and the teachers, and when were they negotiating on this MOU? And so it just gets the point of bargaining in good faith. Is the administration and the school committee asking for parents and teachers' opinions while they're also negotiating this MOU, which precludes any other decision based on the survey.
Okay. I don't have much to add to those comments. So unless you two want to say a little more, I'm ready to go on to the next agenda item.
I think Michael Haresh is on the call. Mike, do you know when the district sent out a survey to parents about their opinions on hybrid?
Yeah, there was a survey that was issued in July. And then I believe a second survey in August, maybe mid-August or so, maybe even towards the end of August.
Mhm.
Not for the high school.
I'm sorry, what was your second question, Jonathan?
That was it. I was just trying to get the dates down of when the surveys went out, and as they relate to the kind of behind the scenes negotiating with the union. And, I'd just be speculating that, that this might be why it's been hard to be really honest with the parents. You're asking for their opinions, they express them, but you're also negotiating with the union, which, the decisions that come out in the MOU are very different conclusions than what the survey reported, I would say. So
Yeah, so just keep in mind that the district had to issue a comprehensive plan to the state, issuing a version of a full return model, a hybrid model, and a remote model, all of which could be deployed at any time.
mhm.
The hybrid and the remote model were presented to the school committee, and 1 week the hybrid model was presented, the second week the remote model was presented, and then it was voted upon.
Yeah, I mean, I just say, in looking at schools, high schools that are rated as well, better, a little less than ours, like Ashland, Needham, Westboro, Lenox, Belmont, Hamilton, Wenham, Wellesley, Groton, Dunstable, Cohasset, Concord, Carlisle. They all did surveys. I think they had very similar results to ours, and they chose to do a hybrid model. And I guess I'm just wondering, why we're so different from our cohorts.
I don't know if you're asking that rhetorically or if you're asking me to opine on it, but I think the vote was 8-3 in favor of remote. So ultimately, it was an evaluation of what was presented to the school committee by the administrators, and it was put to vote. So I think you probably have to ask individual school committee members why they voted in a particular way. But ultimately, the decision was granted to the school committee.
So were you aware of this MOU?
Was I aware of the MOU?
When
Well, I think
when you voted.
so. I'm not sure of the timeline. I think that the voting for to agree on the comprehensive plan happened on August 8th, and I honestly cannot remember what the timeline is. I think that the MOU was finalized after the decision was made. I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain that was the case.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Stan, any other comments?
Um, No, but I think it's almost to the point where whatever the school committee voted, what it was moot. Because if the district negotiated with the union that thou shalt not be any hybrid at the high school, that seems to have put the proverbial nail in the coffin. So it doesn't really matter what anyone voted on. I mean, it seems to be that it was more of what the teachers wanted versus what is best for the students. And there's nothing in this MOU that talks about conditions at the high school. It's just thou shalt not have hybrid at the high school, period, end of sentence. So I think all of this discussion about trying to have something different, unless this MOU gets amended, there can't be that option. So I think that's a discussion.
All right, Jonathan?
I'm ready to move on. if you
Okay.
are.
The next item for discussion is the letter signed by the Neshoba Regional High School teachers that was read at the school committee meeting on November 4th. I would like to make some initial comments here that letter was not sent to the boards of selectmen of any of the towns, even though the selectmen are referenced in the letter. It's my understanding it was not sent to individual school committee members. It was not sent to the local newspapers. And the text of the letter that's available at the school district, downloading from the school district, the letter isn't even addressed to anybody. So my take on this is that it appears that the letter only exists for the school committee chairman to use as a cudgel. I think she made a big mistake in reading it. I think it's a very divisive document that doesn't show any path forward for resolving some of these issues, but just sets up walls between people. Stan or Jonathan?
Well, I certainly agree with your statements. The fact that, and my understanding is that, at least speaking to one of our school committee reps, that this letter wasn't even known to them prior to the meeting in question. When it was whoever's playing music, could you stop or mute yourself? It's very distracting. There are just so many falsehoods in this email or letter that was written. I mean, I could go through all of it, and it really is one very poorly written communication, full of misconceptions, and quite frankly, in the private sector, if employees wrote this kind of email or this kind of letter, they actually would be fired the next day. This is full of mistruths, and the genesis of this letter was as a result of the October 14th Tri-Town meeting, where, if I recall, and since I was there, and Bob, you were there as well, there was nothing said about the teachers at all. Our focus was on the children and the issues of the parents, and to have this kind of letter generated with the kind of tone. And there was a gentleman from Stowe who wrote a letter to the editor in the Bolton, the Stowe Independent, which I read, which really summed it up very nicely in terms of I couldn't have done a better job. I don't understand why it was even generated, other than the comments that you had made. I think it was a very hurtful letter, and those teachers really don't have a clue as to what's going on. So to that point, I'm very disappointed in the 67 who signed this letter. And I think they need to do better, and they need to issue an apology to the parents of all three towns, because I'm hearing from the parents, and one, they're very offended. Two, they're very concerned and scared. That's another thing that I'm hearing from parents is the fear of the parents speaking up, and the fear of retaliation by either the district, the school committee, or the teachers against their students. I had one parent who said, my son, all of my classes, my son's classes have one of these teachers in there. What am I supposed to do now? So I'm very disappointed, extremely disappointed.
I will concur with you that there was nothing said about the teachers at that Tri-Town meeting, and I have heard a similar thing from parents that they're anxious about speaking up because they think it'll affect their child.
Exactly. And we should not have an environment in a district where the parents are fearful for their children if they speak up, because they're not necessarily thinking that they're getting the best education for their education or environment for the children. I think that's a horrible, horrible thing that we're dealing with right now.
Okay, Jonathan?
Yeah, I would just say that this is an example of the school administration and the school committee acting defensively instead of taking to heart the comments that were made and being open. This was a very defensive move. And it just goes to like a mentality of, you know, we don't want to hear things. We don't want your input. We know what to do. And both organizations need to open up to the comments of parents, to the selectmen, what we're hearing from parents, the school committee as well. And they also need to do it in their meetings.
Okay, so once again, I'd like to open it up for comments, but I would like to have Bolton citizens, Bolton residents speaking first. If the others could please wait a few minutes. As Jenny said, please go down your participants button, go to the more label next to your name and raise your hand there if you'd like to speak. Are there any, Jenny? Okay, I can't hear you, Jenny.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
We have Michael Tollefson.
Hello, I'm Mike Tollefson. I'm a resident in Bolton, but I'm also a parent of graduates to Neshoba and a teacher. And I wanted to just step back and correct something that was misstated as far as the MOU goes. I was part of the negotiation team for the MOU. I was the only high school representative because the focus.
Or Tollefson.
Someone speaking in the background, please mute if you're not Mike Tollefson right now.
So, so I just wanted to speak to the rationale behind the MOU was because of the change in work conditions. That negotiation started sometime in August. It occurred through most of the month of August. We spent over 25 hours negotiating it. Both the labor and management had items to place in there. But the thing I wanted to correct is item 2 only states the conditions when it was negotiated. Item 2 in the MOU does not prevent the high school from going from remote to hybrid, just like the MOU doesn't prevent K through 8 going from hybrid to remote should that have to happen. So that's incorrect. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the the understanding that we have between labor and management on that. And then on point number 16, management actually agreed with us, labor, as far as we didn't want to split teachers' attention between remote and in-person live learning at the exact same time in the same room. But that does not preclude a teacher teaching a remote session at one time of the day and a live session on another time of the day. So those are clarifications as to the meaning behind the MOU. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any comments about the letter from the teachers?
We have 3 hands. Al Fortiani is the first.
Okay, and
Am I
I guess
being
we don't have any
recognized?
we don't have any Bolton residents that we're clear about. All right,
Well,
Mr. Fortiani, go ahead.
I'm a
Yes.
Bolton resident.
there is one other
Okay.
name.
Fine.
Sorry, there's no way for me to tell who's a Bolton resident.
Okay,
There's Justin Cameron.
Hi, thank you. Justin Cameron, 31 Powder Hill Road in Bolton, Massachusetts. I want to thank the select board for hosting this, and the first option that, well, at least I've had in speaking live to in support of our students K through 12. I do want to just quickly mention the MOU before reflecting on the letter. The teachers splitting their attention and supporting the in-person students and the remote and at-home students is a methodology that's working very well in surrounding districts. And it does solve a lot of the problems. I have respectfully asked the chairperson and the superintendent to use this time where, you know, maybe the discussion is, you know, we might have to go remote as cases around us are swirling. As the task force are re-engaging, my hope is that the MOU will be opened up. Again, I'm stating, as I should have also introduced myself as an educator. I'm a principal in the town of Concord, and I've been an educator for over 20 years. On that behalf, I would like to speak, while I understand the frustration of the board and the frustration of parents. I was a teacher for 12 years, and I just want to share, I believe that letter was due, in fact, to a lack of leadership right now in the Neshoba Regional School District. I know of many letters that have been penned. I was a vice president of the Southborough's Teachers Association. I know of a lot of letters that have been penned that I have had access to as an administrator that has never reached such a public place. I feel sad for the teachers, especially those teachers who live in town. Teachers are in a place, in a very scary place, and they continue to be in a very scary place. And I hold no blame to the teachers who wrote that letter. Especially, I have to say, I am sure that there are names on that letter of teachers who feel very conflicted and very sad. I again want to state very directly that I think that letter being made public was due to a lack of leadership in the Neshoba Regional School District. And
Absolutely.
And finally, I just want to thank the school committee member who is a part of this meeting today. It saddens me that there are not more school committee members or our superintendent. But I do believe just even having one school committee member here who has the courage to answer questions and to be a part of the dialogue, that gives great hope to this community. So I want to honor the fact that we have a school committee member here as well. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Fortiani?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to address every parent in this district. No teacher at Neshoba Regional High School would ever retaliate against a student for any action done by a parent. Okay, to suggest that is very far off base. Your teachers at your high school care very deeply about your children's education. I personally have dedicated my adult life to educating your children and spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours above and beyond my normal classroom duties. So please, parents, you have freedom of speech. You can exercise it. It will not be taken out on your children. Mr. Wysocki intimates that the reason that we are in remote is not because we think it's best for our children, because we think it's best for ourselves, and that is not the case. There is a general feeling I get from people at this meeting that there is a progression of betterness from remote to hybrid to full school. And I tell you that that is not true. There are trade-offs. There are advantages to hybrid, and there are advantages to remote. And when the professionals that looked at all the issues, including space at the high school, airflow, logistics, et cetera, put it all together, it was decided that remote was better for the children. I had a conversation with, someone from Wayland today, a curriculum official, and they said, yes, it's clear that remote learning, full remote, is better for delivery of curriculum. So there are advantages to full remote. So I think we need to keep that in mind. Okay. Also, Mr. Wysocki said that the teachers don't know what's going on. I mean, we know what's going on, Mr. Wysocki. We're in the classroom every single day. Okay. Is it perfect? No, it's not. No one's saying that it is. Is it the best that we can do? Most of us think that it is the best solution. We're in a situation where no matter what decision is made, people are going to be unhappy. It seemed clear to the district that if we went to hybrid, that a significant portion of students would not come in. And because of staffing issues, there would be no way to run hybrid at the high school and also have remote learning done by high school teachers. And a third-party vendor would need to be hired to deal with those remote students in the hundreds. So if we did that, and then those hundreds of parents who didn't get a Neshoba teacher started calling the selectmen, then would the selectmen apply political pressure for that solution? We're in a situation where somebody's going to be unhappy. So to apply political pressure makes it very difficult because people can't make decisions. One last comment I would like to make. There's also an intimation that administration had something to do with the genesis of this letter signed by 67 teachers and faculty members. It was not. It's also been an intimation that the Tri-Town meeting was the genesis of this letter. It was not. Okay. This letter came from teachers who felt like we're having a hard time doing our job of teaching the children because we're going to start getting pulled from different directions. The district made the best decision after all due diligence and deliberation. It's understood that many people are unhappy with this decision, but we need to understand that many people would have been unhappy no matter what decision was made. Your teachers, parents, citizens care deeply about educating your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fortiani. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Jenny, you're on mute.
I don't know how that keeps happening. Mike Hresh has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Hi, thank you. I also wanted to circle back to a comment made earlier. Just to be clear, the MOU, and again, I think Mr. Tollefson spoke to this, but I just wanted to make sure that this is clear. The MOU is not the obstacle to any change from one model to the other. The MOU just describes the terms for how the model is implemented. Whatever model it is, it describes the term of how it's implemented. The decision to pivot from one model to the next is recommended by the superintendent and is voted upon by the school committee. It is not embedded in the MOU.
Michael, I would disagree with you on that, because I listened to the November 18th school committee meeting where the MOU was brought up. And on many occasions, Catherine Codian advised the school committee not to discuss that, because any change in terms of the MOU could be a prelude to some pre-discussion about changing stuff. So I vehemently disagree with you on that, because there was a lot of discussion at that a November 18th meeting about the MOU and making any potential changes to that and impacting any kind of bargaining.
So I could appreciate your opinion. I was also at that meeting, and Amy Cohen, a representative from Bolton, brought up the issue that Mr. Cameron brought up, which was the issue of split classrooms, live streaming a classroom. And that is item number 16 in the MOU, which couldn't be discussed publicly. That was not a mention of whether we could pivot from one model to the next. That was a specific point outlined in the MOU, which can't be discussed publicly until it gets renegotiated and agreed upon by both parties. I just don't want there to be any conflation between those two items.
Well, but that's to my point, Michael. That's to my point.
Who's next? No other comments?
Or no other hands up, I should say.
No other hands up right now? All right. Thank you all. I appreciate the discussion. Next on our agenda is a discussion response to the November 12th or 13th letter from the school committee to the boards of selectmen. Who would like to start that discussion?
Mr. Chairman, maybe I might like to start that discussion.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'll address the letter specifically in a moment, but it came to my attention after the various meetings we had and when that letter was generated. I went back and looked at the meeting agendas for the school committee for the subsequent meetings after our October 14th Tri-Town meeting, which I believe were October 21st, the 26th, and November 4th, and also looked at the meeting minutes of those meetings, the ones I referenced, the 21st, the 26th, and November 4th, and could not find where there was any discussion at that public meeting for a discussion about communication or discussion or deliberation about what was going to go in a letter or any vote that was done, because actually the letter that we had received was actually signed by all the members of the school committee. I also reached out to one of our school committee members and asked about that and whether or not in any of those subsequent meetings from the 14th of October, whether this was discussed in one of those duly published meetings, and responded that it was not. And I believe when we had the subsequent Tri-Town meeting, that you also asked the same question and basically got the same answer, that no, that this was not a school committee meeting, but it was discussed outside of the published school committee meeting. So based upon that, I submitted.
Dan, you're breaking up.
Committee. I believe
Stan, you're frozen. Stan, you're gone.
am I
Oh,
back?
there you
now?
are.
I'm back. I'm back. I believe that the school committee violated the open meeting law in deliberating the letter and the deliberation of that letter to us. And I have submitted that to the chairman of the school committee. So I just want to let everybody know that I've done that. There is a defined process that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires in terms of responding to that. So we will see the clock is operating on that. As far as the letter itself, Don Lowe reminded us in a previous meeting that the Tri-Town meeting started as a result of some financial issues and misappropriation within the school district going back to like 2002, 2003. And the Tri-Town meeting has been in existence for the past 17 years. I think the meeting has served us well over the course of those 17 years. I believe the format of the meeting has worked well. Some of the items in the letter from Chairman Kodian asked for agenda items to be presented before the meeting so people would know what was going to be asked, which has always been done. So, I thank her for the letter. I don't really see that from my perspective that really anything needs to be changed. It is a gathering of the three towns to discuss town-related stuff, but it's also because we are a three-town school district to get together outside of these kinds of meetings to discuss what's going on in the district, to get a better handle and sense of what's going on. So I personally don't see that there really needs to be any change in terms of how the meeting is conducted. It has served us well for the past 17 years.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan?
I think the letter gets at like the discomfort that the administration and the school committee have outside of their own meetings when things are out of their control. It seems to suggest a lot of preconditions for participating, and they really just have to stop that. Like tonight, there are no preconditions for anybody participating. You just have to raise your hand, identify yourself, and then you speak. And there just needs to be an ability of the district and the school committee to take live comments, listen to them, respond when they can, say, I'll get back to you. I don't have an answer now. It's that simple. And so it's important that they participate. Tri-Town is important. It's very important that the three communities come together with the school district. It can feel very split up. So any way that we can do that is a benefit.
Okay. I'd like to start my comments about the letter by noting that the meeting, the Tri-Town meeting of November 17th was on a Tuesday. In order to properly follow the open meeting law, the agenda was posted more than 3 days in advance. The agenda for that meeting was released right around noontime on the prior Thursday. The purpose of posting an agenda that far in ahead is to give everyone, including the general public, sufficient time to consider the agenda items and be able to address them. The letter from the school committee and to the selectmen came out the following day, a day after the agenda had been frozen. That action, coming in and announcing the day after the agenda is frozen that you're not going to participate, is not the sign of a good faith negotiation. It's exactly the opposite. It's using the rules to freeze your position. As far as the contents of the letter go, I disagree with the statement in the letter that there is general agreement that there are changes to be made. There was no general agreement. There were maybe 2 people out of 60, 65 who said, let's have some changes. There was no general agreement. Furthermore, the recommendation to have an ad hoc group discuss the rules for Tri-Town. Tri-Town is an ad hoc group. There is nothing in the regional agreement establishing Tri-Town or setting any rules for it. The proposal from the school committee to form an ad hoc group of Tri-Town members to set the rules for the ad hoc Tri-Town meeting is contradictory. If the school committee and the school committee chairman really wanted to make some changes, the proper venue is the Tri-Town meeting itself. They were notified along with everybody else and invited to submit items for the agenda of that meeting. None occurred. Furthermore, let me point out that the chairman of the school committee is a resident of Lancaster who was the host of the Tri-Town meeting on the 17th. It would have been very easy to get some items on the agenda had they wanted to do that. So my take on this is that there is no general agreement that changes need to be made, that the proper venue for making changes to Tri-Town is the Tri-Town meeting itself. And what I hope to get to, if there aren't any other issues, is to have a written response to this letter tonight. That's my goal in this section of the meeting. So I don't know, 2 things I would like to see in the letter is we dispute the fact that there's no general agreement, that the turnout for that meeting was fantastic, and that the proper venue for changing Tri-Town meeting is Tri-Town. It's not to set up a separate sub Tri-Town.
I'd agree with
I
that.
would fully concur with your statements, and Bob, you were very eloquent in your response, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
All right. Jonathan, do you have anything you want to add?
I think that's probably the nugget of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would like to close this letter with, let me run this by you. What I would like to close this letter with is the following. Any venture that spans 17 years and includes 3 municipalities and a regional school district can always be improved. As you seem earnest in your desire for change, we will assume your participation in the Tri-Town meeting of December 9th at 7 p.m. We request that you read this letter. We request that this letter be read aloud during the citizens' comment section of the next school committee meeting.
I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Are we going to add Stan's point about the process, the open meeting process? That wasn't observed in regards to the letter?
That is an initiative that Stan took on his own. It was not an initiative of the Board of Selectmen.
That is correct.
I am not comfortable in making that part of the letter.
And nor should it be. That
Okay.
was, I did that as an individual citizen. We had no discussion of that as a board. That is my initiative. So it should not be part of that letter.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to get some comments from the citizens of Bolton, if we could. Anything, Jenny?
I have no hands.
No hands. Any comments from the larger general audience? Okay, Don, do you have any comments? You have to unmute, Don. It's not enough that we just see your great face.
I've always said I have a great face for radio, and no one ever argues with me. So, just as a closing comment, I would just like to reinforce something that Jonathan said. I think the Board of Selectmen tonight set a great example for communication. There were no preconditions on people commenting tonight. There were certainly views from various sides, and everyone was allowed and encouraged to speak their minds. And just because this is a Zoom meeting doesn't mean it can't be done. Zoom is the way we conduct business right now. And I think just because meetings are done via remote participation does not mean that people can't be heard. The Bolton Board of Selectmen on December 10th will be discussing the potential of a community host agreement with a marijuana operation. And at our last meeting last Thursday, the Board of Selectmen made the document that we're negotiating public on our website to give the residents of Bolton 3 weeks to review and comment. And at the meeting on December 10th, the chair has made it clear that he wants ample time on that meeting for people to weigh in on whatever comments they have, pro and con. It can be done. It's not particularly difficult, but even if it were difficult, I think open communication is important. And I think, while it can always be improved upon, I think a good example was set tonight. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So what I would like is a motion authorizing me to write this letter and submitting it after review of the letter by the town administrator.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
aye,
Sikansky.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, may I just opine on something for a moment?
Sorry, aye.
Aye. Again, Mr. Chairman, may I just opine on something and a follow-up on Mr. Don Lowe's comments?
Yes.
I have had the pleasure of speaking to lots of citizens in Bolton, and also citizens from the other towns as well. We've swirled around a lot of issues this evening, and people have reached out to me, parents have reached out to me on a variety of issues, and I have gotten emails, I have spoken to folks. I think the one thing, and again, to echo Don's comments, certainly there are many themes, common themes that run through all of this, but one of the things is, I think that the frustrations of the parents is that they don't have a voice. They're not able to discuss, they're not able to comment at school committee meetings. I think the school committee should really consider and reconsider their stance on not allowing public comment or even some limited public comment during their discussions. They're discussing things that affect the children of the three towns, and they're not allowing those parents to have any voice in those discussions. And I think it's a real detriment to being able to have a constructive dialogue. And to Don's point, in terms of Zoom is the way we're dealing with business now. We don't have any in-person meetings, and I think the school committee really should reconsider their stance on not allowing any parents to comment. I think
Okay,
they should do
thank you. Did Mr. Cameron have a comment?
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank Stan and, echo all the voices for all of you helping to find our voices. I'm a parent of two. I have a godson up at the high school. So thank you again for holding this and allowing us to speak and advocating for our voices to be heard live at school committee meetings. I think that's very important. Just a quick point of procedure to the chair. The letter that you're drafting, I guess I'm unclear on how much focus will be directed towards the teachers who penned the letter. And I have to state again my concern. I really think we need to look at this, from 10 years from now, about, decisions we make of the people that will still be in our community. The teachers, for the most part, look at the, state of education, they're called golden handcuffs. Teachers are still going to be a part of our community. A lot of people here are still going to be a part of our community. I would ask the selectmen and select board to focus their letter on the district leadership and not necessarily of the teachers. Teachers are good people, and they penned a letter during a state of crisis in a pandemic that is or happens every 100 years. I implore the committee to take their focus off of the teachers and to focus a little bit more on the leadership or lack thereof. The high school does not have a principal. That matters. The chairperson, there's concerns. And then the school committee the superintendent as well. In closing, teachers are really good people. And I would really, I think it would hurt our community a lot if we allowed the letter to do as much damage as is being reflected right here. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I bear some responsibility for this, but the letter we are going to send is not in any way, shape, form, or manner a response to the letter from the teachers. The letter we are sending is in response to a letter from the school committee and the school committee chairman of November 12th, where they announced why they were going to no longer attend the Tri-Town meetings. That's the only letter that we are responding to in our letter.
Thank you for
So
that.
I apologize if I didn't make that clear. I sometimes get caught up in this stuff, and I don't remember that other people are not familiar with all this stuff. Don, is the letter from November 12th from the school committee posted on our website or public anyplace?
No, it isn't, but it certainly can be made to be.
Okay, well, yeah, after we get this response out, I'd like to have both of them posted so people can understand what it is we're talking about.
All right, we'll get that done.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Saki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. There was a delay.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good and safe Thanksgiving.
Thank
Thank
you.
Have a good
Good
Thanksgiving.
night.
Take care. Good night now.
It is 8:19.